Okay, three, two, one. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're at in the U.S. or around the world. Welcome. I'm your host, Pete Caliendo. This is Baseball Outside the Box. And listen, we've got a great show for you today, but we're going to start off with a couple things. Don't forget, go to baseballoutsidethebox.com, and that's the audio part. Go ahead and hit subscribe, share it with everybody. Really appreciate it. Thank you, ESPN Honolulu, for having us on your website. We appreciate a great response from Honolulu. And of course, we're on all over social media. We're live on Facebook. If you have any questions on Facebook today, go ahead and just punch it in the comments section. We'll get that question to our guest. And I got to tell you, we've been trying to get Steve on. It's not been his fault, it's been mine, because I think he runs an outstanding program. We have the founder and president of Roberto's Kids. He's going to tell you all about it. Steve Pindar. Steve, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Great to connect with you again.
Great to have you. And I know you're doing a lot of hard work. Before we start, I do want to just ask you, I'm going to give you the rapid questions in a minute here, but I do want to ask you, during the pandemic, how over the 2 years, how you been?
Oh, I've been good. I won't lie to you. I think I got COVID, and it happens. I got it. My wife got it. My son and his daughter and his wife. To be honest with you, I was one of the lucky ones. It wasn't horrible, and we all got through it, and we're all fine now. So that's a wonderful thing.
And I wanted to tell the folks, you obviously you work at the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. What a fantastic job to have. How was that during the pandemic? We guys still doing stuff?
We shut down for 103 days. When the pandemic first started, we shut down from March 26, 2020 until March 16th to June 26th. We've been open ever since then. Obviously, when we reopened, we were under guidance from the state as far as capacity, et cetera. We followed all that. I'm biased, I know that, but I think the Hall did a wonderful job of handling the situation, did everything we were supposed to do, et cetera. And now, as of probably 2 weeks ago, we're no masks. It just happened in the last couple of weeks. So we're doing well. We're looking for a quote unquote normal summer, and induction last year was great, but it was, it wasn't normal. People said to me, well, how was the induction in September? I said, well, it would be like an induction you're used to having it on a Sunday in July, et cetera, et cetera. We had it on a Wednesday in September. We had to. It was better, and certainly better than nothing. But we had 20,000 people for Jeter, which was tremendous. But had it been a July induction with no pandemic, oh my goodness, probably, it might have been the largest crowd ever. At this point, still, Ripken Gwynn may go down as the, forever. I don't know. 2007 was Ripken Gwynn, and that's the largest crowd to date for the induction, 82,000.
So what do we got coming up? Poppy?
We got Big Poppy will help with the draw a lot this summer. We'll obviously all in New England. We'll have a lot of Dominicans there, et cetera. It's going to be great. I can't predict the crowd, but we have three living Hall of Famers coming in this summer. You got Tony Oliva, Jim Cott, and Ortiz.
Oh yeah.
And then some others that had passed who still though have Gil Hodges. He'll have a nice draw from Gil Hodges. Buck O'Neill, Minnie Mignoso. So it's going to be a great summer.
Yeah, we had Minnie here in Chicago a few times, honored at the Pitch and Hit Club. What a great guy. Of course, all you mentioned are fantastic. What normally happens, and folks, I'm going to ask Steve a couple questions about the Hall of Fame because he works there. So, and then I'll get into the other questions. If somebody passed away, a family member accepts the award.
Yeah, like Sharon, his widow, she was actually, when someone is elected, a living member, they come in one at a time during the winter for their induction. I apologize, for the orientation. One day they're there. They get a tour of the museum from, the entire museum plus the archives. They meet the local press, the reception held for them. They go through the logistics induction weekend with senior staff, et cetera. So yeah, we've already had so far. We've had, let's see who's been here so far. So far we've had his widow Sharon and Tony Oliva have been there so far. And talk about a wonderful human being. Tony Oliva, they don't get much better than that man. Just the most wonderful, kind, humble person. He's great.
Tony Oliva, Cuban,
Yes.
right? I
Yeah.
remember. I've been to Cuba quite a bit.
Two Cubans going in the summer, Minoso and Oliva, two Cubans. That's great.
Absolutely. Hey, Steve, finally, I probably should ask you this first. What do you do for the Hall of Fame? What's your main function?
I actually I've been there about 5 years. I was in visitor services before. I'm one of the supervisors there. That's the department that basically is the face of the museum, greets them when they come in, answers their questions, etc. I went over, I'm in retail now. I'm a retail supervisor now. And I like that very much.
Maybe some people don't know, but, and it's kind of interesting, I think. How is the Hall of Fame funded?
It's a 501c3 nonprofit. It is funded strictly by donations. You knew that, but I appreciate the question.
Yeah,
here's the question questions we get out now. A question we get every day, all day long is, does MLB own the Baseball Hall of Fame? Does MLB own half of the Hall of Fame? Does MLB have an official affiliation with the Hall of Fame? The answer to them is no, no, and no, those questions. MLB has a wonderful relationship with the Baseball Hall of Fame, but it has no official affiliation. The National Baseball Hall of Fame is a 501c3 that was started by the Clark family back in 1939. It is still controlled by the Clark family today.
What's kind of interesting about it, not knowing a lot about it, but what's interesting, it's separate from MLB, and that's kind of good too, because then there's no pressure when it comes to the voting and some other things that go on.
Exactly.
Yes, I like that. All right, some rapid ones for our guests, just to get to know you a little bit. Where were you born? New York?
Well, here's the part where people are going to probably say he's not telling the truth, but I was born in Cooperstown.
Nice. Honest. I didn't even know that. Awesome.
People ask me that when I'm at work and they think I'm kidding them. I said, no. I was actually really born. I said, I wasn't born here at the Hall of Fame, but I was born in Cooperstown.
How big is Cooperstown?
2,000 people.
Was that about the same when you were a kid? Did it grow in?
Oh, it hasn't. Nothing's moved. Nothing's changed.
Let me tell you, I love those towns because I went to a Mickey owned baseball school when I was young for about 10 years. And there's a town called Miller, Missouri. That was only like 1,500 people. So we spent the summer there. Loved it. How about, what did your parents do when, as far as living?
I actually grew up in a wholesale auto parts family. And when I was old enough to help out, I was helping out. When I was old enough to get my license, I was out on the road doing things. So I like that. I liked it very much growing up in a family business. I really did. A lot of hard work, but I had a lot of good values I learned. So that's what I did.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic. No, you hope to see that more and more nowadays, because back then I think it was more common. How about favorite food? What do you got there?
Oh, favorite food. I would tell you, favorite food, I would have to be, I'm a big fan of beef. So probably things like hamburgers and meatloaf, things like that.
All right, cool. And what about as a kid? Did you play any sports?
Oh, as a kid, yeah, baseball, but I didn't go no college ball or anything like that for me. But I did play baseball going up through.
Anything else?
Nope.
Well, obviously that was your favorite sport, right?
Always has been.
Is there a favorite sport you like watching that you necessarily didn't play?
Well, I'm going to bore everybody, but I like to watch baseball.
Yeah, well, we all like to watch baseball. By the way, speaking about that, I'm thrilled to have MLB Network. Everybody was excited about, the lockout being over. So was I.
Yeah.
And I was more excited because I love watching MLB Network. It's on 24 hours, and you get all the great baseball, keeps you excited. So I'm with you there. I like baseball too, not just the games, but also the networks. How about, what was your motivation? Because that's what we're going to get into in starting Roberto's Kids.
Sure, absolutely. 1997. I think that's like 25 years ago. My goodness. My wife and I took our very first trip to the Dominican Republic. We went with our church actually on a mission team to construction, dental, medical, etc. And a couple years later, the local Little League called up and they said, we've got some stuff that we don't need anymore. There's nothing wrong with it. We just don't need it. Would you like it? We know that baseball is huge in the DR. Would you like to take it there? I said, absolutely. So 1999 was basically when we got our start. From 99 till 05, we were it was a family project. We would literally do everything from one end to the other. We would inventory it, pack it on this end, and then we would take it on the plane if we were going to the DR and distribute it on the other end. 2005, we had grown past the point of taking things on the plane with us, and I just had a feeling that as we were probably end of 2005, we were probably doing 3 or 4 tons a year, something like that. And I said to my wife, as great as this is, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I know it in my heart. I did not work at the Hall of Fame there, but I've always had friends there. I actually got a hold of the president in the end of 05, and they put me in touch with the Clemente family. I met Roberto Jr. and Luis in January of 2006. They very graciously gave me permission to use their father's name. Roberto's kids was born. And from 99 until now, from 99, especially from 06 until now, has been the most wonderful, emotional ride of my life. The Clementes have no official affiliation with Roberto's kids, nor do I with the Clemente Foundation, but we have become very, very good friends. And they're always there for me. I try to be there for them. And the fact is, when Roberto's kids was born and the Clemente name was affixed to it, my goodness, that changed everything for us. Then we literally were getting requests from all over the world. On a non-pandemic year, we're probably distributing now 20, 25 tons a year all around the world. I had a reporter ask me a couple of years ago, they said, has Roberto's kids gone beyond your wildest dreams? And my answer to the gentleman at the time was no. I said to my wife just recently, if I was asked that question now, my answer would be yes. It has gone beyond my wildest dreams, because our stuff, I can hardly even, imagine our stuff now literally is going around the world. Places like Serbia and Siberia and, oh my goodness, Bhutan. Some of these countries, I actually wasn't even 100% familiar with where they're located. I had to look them up.
How many countries you think you've been in? How many countries you've been? How many countries?
Oh, goodness gracious. I wouldn't even be able to, that's a great question, actually, Pete. And what we did when we first started, was always strictly Dominican Republic. Then we were with the Clementes, we added Puerto Rico. I said to myself a long time ago, actually, I've had some wonderful mentors along the way, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, et cetera, and who've helped me, guided me through what can be pitfalls in third world countries. And so I've been very, very lucky along those lines. And I've been very careful as we came through, never to add a country on where we did not have a very good working channel of distribution. Because
Sure.
When you're dealing with third world countries, it is so easy for your stuff to end up in the wrong hands, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, we eventually then we were able to add on Mexico, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Colombia, and then it went from there. Philippines. I'm sure you know this. You're a baseball man, but I keep telling people, I hope in my lifetime that there's Africans in Major League Baseball, because Africa is the next breeding. It is huge in baseball. They're learning the game, but talk about a love for baseball. We've distributed a lot of stuff in Nigeria, Uganda, Benin, a lot of this, and they absolutely love the game in Africa. Love it.
And you know what, you hit it right on the button. I believe that soon Africa is going to explode. MLB believes that too. They've been putting money into programs there.
I agree with you.
Steve, how does a country get you're going to get requests? There's over 120 countries playing baseball. So when you get these requests, I know you have to have a way to get the equipment there, and you got to be assured of that. But how do you decide if you got 5 countries and all of a sudden you can only distribute to 3?
Fair enough. First thing we do is check out the request. That's number one. First, we I hate to use the word screen them, but I can't put it any other way. They're screened.
Yeah.
I was just a couple hours ago, I was chatting with a friend of mine, and I said, well, what's the screening process? Well, I said, it started in the DR. I have had a lucky to have a long relationship with MLB in the DR, and they're always willing. And it's comical because, if let's say I get an email today from somebody in the DR or Puerto Rico that I never heard of before. We have a request form, et cetera, et cetera. And also, if it's the DR, I give them the name of who they contacted, MLB in Santo Domingo. And here's how it usually works. No surprise to anybody. If they call MLB, they're legitimate. If MLB never hears from them, they weren't legitimate to begin with.
Yeah.
I hate to sound like a pessimist for the folks that are listening, but I've done this a long time, and I've learned through the years. I am not an expert, but I've learned through the years with the one step forward, two steps back. We all learn. If someone says you're an expert, it's only because of experience. It's not because it's nothing else. I learned through the years of doing this. So back to your question, we would then screen them and find out who of the five is legitimate and worthy, and then we decide. From there, we would send, okay, what is on your list? How can I help you? There are other organizations that do similar work to us, and they choose to distribute the same products to everybody. I'm not criticizing that at all. That's what they do. They would certainly gets a package, and the package consists of the same items for everybody. I am not here to criticize that one bit. We do it differently, though. I will ask for a quote unquote wish list from the prospective recipient, with them knowing up front, I may not be able to fill the entire list. But if they're legitimate and they give me a list that we can pretty close to filling, that's what we do. We find that our donations last longer, go further, positively affect more recipients that way than giving someone a one-size-fits-all package that maybe they didn't need everything that was in the package, if that makes sense.
Steve, also think about this now. Okay, you got a country, you got a federation, you got also clubs or teams. Does anybody make a request, or does this request have to come from a federation, a home club? How does that work?
If great question again. If a country has a federation, I then will check the recipient out with the federation to make sure that they're who they say they're, et cetera. If they don't, we've just been doing it long enough that it turns out that somebody knows somebody who knows somebody who I trust, and they will do the legwork for us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. The other part of all this, I mean, here you are, you got a full-time job, plus you found Roberto's kids. You have other people helping you with Roberto's kids?
Yeah, I've got a board of directors, and they are wonderful. It's never, I fail miserably to talk about myself. My wife said it's one of my worst traits, but I don't like to talk about myself. I never ever want to come off as anything but humble, because I feel this is an honor. This is an absolute honor for me to be able to do. It's almost like having two full-time jobs. I do most of the work myself, and it's not work. It's pleasure. I absolutely love, I don't play golf. I don't do other things. I do this. This is what I do.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Well, here's an interesting one. What's that pleasure then? Is it what's the process? You got all this equipment come to you. You got to box it up. How's it shipped? You're doing all this?
Well, the pleasure is from the end. The pleasure is when I get I got one just last week. When I get a 5-second video from some little kids in Colombia that says "Gracias, Roberto's kids," that's it for me. It doesn't get any better than that.
Sweet.
That's what it's all about. I have spent enough time in third world countries that I know that I can tell people honestly, those pictures you see of kids in these countries that they're running around in underwear with no shoes, no sock, no hat, nothing else. And I said, it's true. It's all true. I've seen it over and over and over and over again. It's just the way it is.
I love that part. And now the equipment comes into you.
We've actually got collection hubs all over the country.
Explain that.
Yes, we do. We've got collection. One of the things that I am proud to talk about is the fact that Roberto's Kids is 100% volunteer staffed and based. I've never taken a penny out of Roberto's kids as a salary, nor our board members, nothing. Any monetary donations we get, and we can always use them, of course, are used for shipping and storage. No one takes a salary at all. So we have, obviously, I have storage here in Oneonta, which is where I live. It's a half hour from Cooperstown. But we've got storage, we've got the collection locations in, let me think now, California and Chicago and Iowa and Texas, Connecticut, Massachusetts. So not every single geographic area of the country, and one in Ontario. Sorry, I almost forgot Ontario. I don't want to do that because obviously baseball is very popular in Canada as well. And so Mrs. Smith calls me up today. Mrs. Smith calls me up today, and she says, I'm cleaning my children have all moved out of the house, and I've got some equipment, that I would like to donate. Two things. Number one, I had someone ask me one time, well, aren't you too big now to keep, to accept one glove or one ball? And I remember telling the person when they said that to me, I said, about the time that I am too busy or too important to collect one glove or one ball, I'm in the wrong business, because it said, oh, am I thrilled when a manufacturer says I'm going to give you a half a truckload or a truckload of? Absolutely thrilled, but that doesn't mean that the one glove, one bat is any less important, because that's what that's how we started, and that's what we're all about. So I tell Mrs. Smith, I'm happy to take your donation, ma'am. Where are you located? Oh, she says, I'm in somewhere in Texas. I then connect her with our collection location in Texas. If they're close enough, then the item gets there. That's how that usually works. Also, I'm very, very honored to say that we've had it for years now, a very good relationship with MLB's RBI organization. I love RBI. And if it's an organization, I had a high school ball player 2 weeks ago in the Clearwater, Tampa area in Florida. And he and his baseball teammates were doing a community service project, collecting baseball equipment at one of their home games. I do not have a collection hub in the Tampa area right now. I simply contacted for Tampa, it's the Rays, it's Rays Tampa RBI. I said, I got a hold of the Tampa Rays RBI. Hey, I got this young gentleman in Clearwater. Would you like his stuff when he's done? We would love it. Now, the RBI, I can't say enough about RBI. I know I'm preaching to the choir when I talk to you about RBI, but I love RBI. And they're always receptive. They're always thrilled to receive donations from us.
Speaking about donations, you said donations, but are there also some sponsorships, or is it strictly just the donations by individuals?
It's most of it. I would have to say that's a great question. Our donor base is comprised of individuals. Now, for individuals, it could be a ball player. It could be someone who just had extra stuff. It could be someone doing an Eagle Scout project. It could be a young man doing his bar mitzvah project. Individuals. We then leagues, organizations, town and city recreation departments, sporting goods stores who have extra or they're going out of business. All kinds of things. Really, all kinds of things. Now, yes, have I received donations in the past of brand new items? Absolutely, from Louisville Slugger, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, but most of the stuff, people say to me, "Well, is your stuff new and used?" Probably the percentage is probably 85 gently worn, 15% new. Probably right about there.
All right, folks on Facebook, we're speaking with Steve Pindar, Roberto's Kids founder. They ship equipment all over the world, and even that 15% used equipment. I mean, kids, in all kinds of countries could use any kind of equipment as long as it's not broken.
Right.
Or they're thrilled to receive it.
Exactly. That I tell people all the time, what do you take and what don't you take? Well, people want to know what are you looking for? I send them our frequently asked questions. And I tell people, and this is the truth. I think we're about the easiest organization to donate that there is going. Like I said, there's just two things that I ask people not to give us. Number one, a batting helmet if it's cracked. I said, if it's a batting helmet that's missing some foam or something, I'll take it. We'll repair it. We'll send it on its way. But I said, please do not donate a batting helmet that is functionally, it's unsafe. And I explained to people, I said, the reason is I don't want a little kid in a third world country to wear this helmet and think he can stand in there and get beamed, and then he's obviously been injured. The
Yeah.
other thing is pants. We got a lot of little league sizes, little league size pants. And as you know, when the kids are in little league, they begin to allow to slide. So I tell moms who call us all, I said, if you have a pair of pants that has a small hole in one knee or both, please yes, of course we'll take it, we'll repair it, we'll send it on. But if you have a pair of pants that has huge holes in both knees, I said, please just throw them away. And my rationale there is that, once again, it's a respect thing. I don't want a little kid who's never worn a pair of pants in his life to put on a pair of pants that should have been in the garbage.
Absolutely.
So those are the only items, because other than that, we take, everything from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet: caps, jerseys, belts, pants, socks, cleats, and then everything you use to play the game: gloves, bats, balls, catcher's equipment, umpire stuff, pitching rubbers, et cetera, and all ages and in all sizes. We take it all.
Awesome. And I'm going on a limb. I'm going to guess greatest demand baseballs.
Oh, heck yes, absolutely.
Or
Absolutely.
I made that question and answer easy. That was a quick one, right?
Good job. I set you up. Good job. I didn't even set you up for that one. Thank you. No, absolutely.
Now, I was coaching in Belgium in the 90s, and I had collected a lot of equipment at that time here in Chicago, and had a shipping container shipped to Belgium now. So I know this is not cheap. How does that work? Because that's a lot of money to fill out these containers.
Okay,
And
fair enough. What we've been doing during the pandemic, when we haven't been shut down, but we've been limited as to what we can do, we've actually, a lot of the time, it's been let's say, hypothetically, I get a request from Cameroon in Africa. I will then say to the person, do you have a contact in the United States? Oh, heck yes. He said, I've got a brother in Philadelphia, or I've got a so-and-so who comes to visit me, who brings stuff to me. I will add an extra person in the loop here. We will make sure the stuff gets to the relative here in the United States. They then will get it to the recipient.
yeah, so you got to be creative
during the pandemic. What?
Yeah, you got to be creative.
Oh, exactly. We've had really good luck with that during the pandemic. Really good luck.
Wow, that's great. And now, as the pandemic's down, we still have the issues with ships and containers.
Oh, heck yes.
Yeah, that's
I've
causing
got a ship. We have we donated a pretty good amount of stuff to Children of the Nations last year, which was headed for the Dominican Republic, and that they still have not been able to get it successfully there. I mean, the stuff is safe, but they still haven't been able to get it there. And we worked with Pat Combs, the former MLB pitcher. Pat Combs, great guy. He has an organization, and he does a lot of work in Belize. And we shipped some stuff with him to Belize. And as of a month ago, they still were not allowed to play baseball in Belize. And now the stuff's there. It's just sitting safely waiting, but they're waiting for the government to say it's okay now.
Yes. And many times, Steve, also on the flip side, sometimes the country has to have some funds to pay the taxes on something like that, don't they?
Well, yes, but we make sure we do our darndest to make sure that nobody incurs any expense on the other end. Because once again, third world countries being the way they are, sometimes what they want is a tax, and sometimes what they want is a bribe. And that I'm being honest. I don't want to shock the folks listening. I apologize if I am, but that's kind of the way it is in some third world countries. So what ends up happening is we make sure that items are shipped into the country. We tell the recipient that we ship our items have because we don't want to be charged any tariffs or anything. We tell them that they come into the country with a zero monetary value.
All right, Steve. The other thing I wanted to ask you about all this was, we're the show's in about 100 countries, so I think this is great because we could really spread the word, continue to spread it.
Yes.
About Roberto's Kids. So people go to robertos/kids.org, and
Exactly.
then that's how they connect with you.
Yeah. There's a link there. There's my email address is there. We've also got an info at there, but I appreciate even spreading the word that way. ROBERTOS-kids, KIDS.org.
All right,
And
that's going to be
if
on our show notes too.
anybody that reaches out, they can know who they're going to hear from. It won't be my secretary because I don't have one. It'll be me.
Yeah, but that's what's great about it. Directly to the man in charge, not, don't know, cutting through any red tape. You handle it all. This is fantastic. Steve, before we go, here's what go back to the Hall of Fame for a second, because you've obviously met a lot of people at the Hall of Fame. And I know it's not an easy question because there's so many great people. Who's the person that impressed you the most? When they come in for their interviews, I believe you mentioned interviews for the Hall of Fame. Who's the person that just impressed you the most? You said, wow, I just didn't realize this guy or gal is just first class.
Well, I mean, I already said the name earlier, but I got to be honest with you. Tony Oliva is one of the kindest. I had met him briefly years ago. We had an event up in Syracuse, AAA Mets, and we had an event up there. I did the event. It was a Roberto's Kids Night they had in August, which is Roberto's birthday was August 18th. So they had a Roberto's Kids Night, and they had a donation. They had a collection for Roberto's kids, and they also had Roberto Jr. Came on, and the broadcast they came in Spanish. So I was there with Roberto Clemente Jr. and myself. Tony Oliva was there as well. So I spent the evening with him. And when I met him again a couple of weeks ago at the Hall, I said, I never expect you to remember me, Mr. Oliva, but we met several years ago. He remembered meeting me with Roberto Jr. in Syracuse. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. He said, I remember you. I remember you.
He's got to be in his 80s.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
83, maybe 80. Yeah, he is. What a wonderful, wonderful man. Other than that, I mean, I'll be generic with your question. Obviously, because I work at the Hall, I'm not supposed to talk about things too much as far as what your question goes. I will say this, and I mean this sincerely. 99% of the Hall of Famers that I have met at the Hall are the most humble, down-to-earth, wonderful people. They really, really are. They really are.
Yeah, and don't worry, I wouldn't have put in a position. I wouldn't have said, who's the biggest jerk? I would never ask that.
I'll leave that to everybody's imagination.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody can figure that out sometimes. Sometimes when you hear some interviews, you wonder, but all right, listen, again, what a great thing you do for, baseball kids around the world. And I know it's not connected just to equipment. Let's finish it off maybe with this. I mean, because, you've done some ministry work overseas. There's other things that you help with. I was reading a hurricane. Talk a little bit about some extra things you do. Also,
in the past, in the DR, my wife and I have distributed food. Went down there and bought food in bulk, and then we made small packages out of each one, and we drove and went to the barrios and distributed food. We did that on Easter Sunday one time. Shoes. I had a lady call me up several years ago and said, my son wants to collect shoes, and like not baseball shoes, just everyday shoes. He ended up with 4,000 pair of shoes. 4,000. Wow. We took them to the Dominican Republic and we distributed every pair. We've done clothing before. There's a need for this stuff all over the place. So, and I actually very, very lucky. Roberto's Kids does receive donations of some new clothing sometimes too, and we actually we certainly we're able to distribute that to those who need it.
Well, we know a country obviously now, and I know you've done stuff there. This country right here, Steve, Ukraine's going to need a lot of equipment when this is all over. These poor young kids and their parents, they're not going to be able to afford anything.
Exactly. We charted that. I know you and I chatted that before we got started. You've done a lot of work there, and I have a very good friend in Pearland, Texas, David Moss, who has done a lot in Ukraine, and he is just so heartsick about it. Roberto's Kids has donated a lot of stuff to him, which is he's taken it to Ukraine, to remember all the countries that he's donated in Europe. He's done a lot of work hitting baseball, and I know that once we get better, we'll be donating to him, and he'll be taking it over again.
Absolutely, super good to hear that. I know we'll be helping also, and folks, some prayers for our friends in Ukraine, and also prayers for our friends in Russia too, because they have families in Ukraine. These are the average people here are in the middle of all this. It's all about government here. So hey, Steve, fantastic, man. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. It's great. It's great to talk to you again. Folks who don't know, Pete and I met years ago at an ABCA convention, and it's really great to connect with you again. I appreciate
What
it.
year was that? You remember the year?
Oh, I can remember we were in Nashville. I don't remember what year it was, but I remember we were at the Opryland Hotel.
Absolutely. Great
Been several
hotel.
years since it was held there, but I remember we were at Nashville. That I do remember.
Well, we're heading in January, Nashville this year.
I know. I got to get back there again because Roberto's I was with collegiate ball at the time. I was the president of a summer baseball, but Roberto's kids, since when I went to the Hall of Fame, I had to leave collegiate ball. But Roberto's kids have stayed a member of ABCA since then. So I want to get back there as a vendor one of these years.
Yeah, it'd be great to see you in person, Steve. So have a good day, and thanks again, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pete.
All right, folks, Steve Pindar, Roberto's kids. What an awesome program. We'll put everything on the show notes, his email, the website we'll have up there so everybody knows how to get a hold of Steve. Special thank you to Brian Kroc, our producer with the Lineup Media Group. They're the ones who host the podcast. Thank you. Thank you, ESPN Honolulu. And of course, to all 100+ countries listening to the show, or watching it on social media. Thank you all for helping and spreading the word of Baseball Outside the Box, the show that loves to interview baseball's best coaching minds and individuals in the game who love the challenge of status quo many times over. We've got some great guests, so check us out. And don't forget, Caliendo Sports International, head to the Dominican Republic baseball team, Christmas time. What a great trip there at Christmas. Dominican Republic, 14 to 16-year-olds. We're just starting to put the roster together now. Email us, caliendosports91@gmail.com. We got a baseball team going to Italy this summer. We're still looking for 3 players. Again, 14 to 16 years old. If you haven't had international baseball experience, it is tremendous. We got a team going to Aruba. We've got a softball team also heading to Aruba. So check us out. Email us at caliendosports91@gmail.com. Hey, folks, remember, stay safe, be healthy. God bless you. And we'll see you on the next show.